So I'm like, well, so why did you buy it from us? And they said, well, because we finally got a hold of you, or called you up. One, you answered the phone. So, yeah. And they said, two, we talked to you guys, you came out, and we liked you. And then we talked to the other guys, we didn't like them.
Simple.
Malika, is that how millennials do it?
Welcome to IndustrialSage, a free video podcast series all about digital marketing for industrial manufacturers. Hear interviews with your peers and find out how they're solving the same challenges that you might be facing in your own field. Coming to you from the Optimum Production Studio in Atlanta, Georgia, this is IndustrialSage.
On October 10th, we actually hosted a panel discussion at the Georgia Manufacturing Summit. It was called The Secrets of Sales and Marketing. It was a great panel discussion. So for today's episode, and actually next week's, we have broken it down. It was an hour and a half long panel discussion, and we basically are breaking it down into 2 episodes. So today will be the first part, and next week we'll release the second part. Hey everybody, how's everyone doing? Great, good, awesome. Have you guys been enjoying the summit so far? Yeah, it's been pretty cool. I'm not going to ask you like Jason might want and say what has been your favorite part, but we may do that later. But it's been great. How about Gulfstream? That was awesome. I thought that was super cool. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of kick this off. We like to be really, really informal. So we're going to just try to keep a discussion here. We're going to have a couple slides, a couple presentation stuff. And then just kind of keep it conversational as much as we can. And we'd love to get your participation, some questions and things at the end if there's something in particular that you're looking to kind of get out of this session. Because sales and marketing is a little broad, just a little bit. So to start with, just I guess a quick introduction to what we're going to be talking about here, who we are, and then we can jump into everything else. I'm Danny Gonzalez. I am with a company called Optimum Productions. So if you were here this morning and you watched the opening video, how many here this morning saw that opening video? Oh, okay, that was us. That was our team here, and that was using a lot of footage that we'd shot with other manufacturers, and put together. The story. It's sort of the bread and butter of what we do. So we do a lot of video. We do a lot of video marketing strategy, and digital marketing, which is a pretty cool thing that we're going to jump into a lot here. I am wearing this T-shirt that says IndustrialSage. This is a show that we started about a year ago that we have a TV set in our studio in Alpharetta, Georgia, and we produce weekly content. So we have guests that come in from other manufacturers. So we've had Chart, we've had Siemens, we've had Stanley Black & Decker, we've had Tensar, we've had Lowe's, Cobalt Tools, we've had Infor, a lot of companies. Gulfstream just told me they were going to come on, so we're kind of excited about that. And the whole goal of it is to really share best practices and ideas around sales and marketing because, as you all know, you're probably familiar with the sense that the way that things used to work, the way that we would go to market or the way that we'd sell has shifted dramatically. Long story short is the way that things work, or used to work rather, are not working in the way that they used to. And so IndustrialSage was built to kind of help to answer that call. So for today's discussion, we're going to be talking about the secrets of sales and marketing, and we've got an awesome panel here for you. So I've got Judson Voss here from Chart Industries. I've got Craig Henry from Siemens on the digital factory, Siemens Digital Factory, so material handling, industrial automation side, and Malika Givens, not Waller, this is Givens, she got married here, from Landis+Gyr. She's digital marketing manager over there. And everyone's kind of got their unique story that we're going to kind of weave in here to talk about how these 3 companies are utilizing digital marketing, how they're using the new means of sales to go generate new leads and really answer this call on some of this digital transformation that we're seeing, not just operationally and in the plant, but also just how the business works to generate leads, how to capture them, and all that, because things have changed a lot. So, I guess maybe before we jump in, I just want to have everyone just kind of introduce themselves and just tell us who you are, where you're from, your backstory, and So Judson, if you could.
Sure. And just so I can make an annoying pop sound, I'm going to pull this off.
Please. Oh, it
Sorry,
wasn't annoying at all.
Thank you. I can't stand that thing. Yeah. So my name is Judson Voss. My title is Business Development and Digital Marketing Manager with Chart Industries. Chart Industries, we're an OEM for cryogenic storage equipment and delivery equipment. So basically means we make big thermoses, hold super cold liquids in it, that type of thing. So everything from what you use in a welding operation to nitrogen for other uses to LNG to fuel trucks and cars and boats and all that kind of stuff. So we make the things to put the stuff in. As far as my title, it's the weirdest title because business development, everybody just assumes that I work in sales, and while I help sell things, I don't work in sales. Purely on the marketing side, sales enablement.
Everyone's in sales.
That's true.
That's a good point. Very good point. Yeah.
That is true. Yeah, so I work mostly on the marketing side, do marketing strategy, all the way back to how we do channels, go to market, everything like that, all the way through trying to get you to buy something.
All right, excellent. Thanks. So we have Craig Henry from Siemens.
Yeah, I'm Craig Henry. I'm with Siemens. I'm industry manager for material handling and logistics. I've been in manufacturing sector since the 90s, and I've actually seen such a transformation. Sales and marketing has been where I've been for the last 25 years, and I'm keenly interested and hopefully well-researched enough to hang with these two when it comes to digital marketing. But I have a special love for manufacturing because that's where I've spent my entire career. We at Siemens have some great technologies, but this isn't really a commercial for Siemens, but more what works, what doesn't, and what's changing. So hopefully this can be interesting. But I'm glad to be here.
And Malika.
Yep, I'm Malika Givens. Is this on? Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, good. I have a soft voice, so sometimes I just don't know. I'm a digital marketing manager with Landis+Gyr. Landis+Gyr manufactures smart meters and smart grid technology, so we help utilities manage energy better. And there, I kind of manage everything digital from website management, SEO, email, social. Basically, if it's on a screen, I have probably touched it or looked at it or done something with it. So really happy to be here, and hopefully I can share some sort of wisdom with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So if anybody has trouble hearing or whatever, just raise their hand in the back, and can everyone hear okay? Everything's sounding good? What? Just pay no attention to that guy back there. Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. So we're going to kind of break this down into a couple different parts. I'm going to spend a little bit of time and just give a breakdown on sort of the state of sales and marketing as it relates to manufacturing and industrial companies. We've had a shifting landscape. And then we're going to kind of get into lead generation tactics. We're going to talk about the MQL and SQL process. So process of generating leads and turning them from marketing qualified leads into sales qualified leads. Once they are sales qualified, that gets kicked over to somebody like a Craig. He's going to talk about the importance of CRM and using the different new technologies to be able to really to cultivate those leads and sort of that new found relationship between sales and marketing, as there should be a new relationship between sales and marketing. And then we'll round up with Malika, who's going to share her story on how to get organizational buy-in, because all this stuff sounds really amazing and it's awesome and it's great, but sometimes there's pushback at the high level. That pushback could be us. That pushback could be upper management saying, yeah, but this is the way that we've done it for years and years and years, and we're not going to change. And so Malika's got a fantastic story on how she's been able to really get that organizational buy-in and how she started to really start moving in some of these digital tactics and these strategies to bring a lot of success for Landis+Gyr. So jumping in, I already mentioned again a little bit about IndustrialSage. That's our studio there. So we're in Alpharetta. That was a remote interview we did with a product manager from Cobalt Tools. So that was Lowe's private brand, and they're about 20-minute episodes. And really, again, the whole goal of this is to really share everything about sales and digital marketing as it relates to manufacturing and industrial professionals. The goal is really to build a community, to share best practices, because the reality of it is the way that things are changing, it's changing at a breakneck speed, and the way that things worked 10, 20, 30 years ago are not working. The mechanics of them, the thing isn't changing in the sense of how sales and marketing functions. It's more of how it's being communicated and the wrapping on it, on the packaging is changing, if that makes sense. So that's essentially what we kind of address. So let's jump into this shifting landscape. So we've talked about really essentially the buying cycle. The way that we buy has dramatically shifted. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So if we look at a couple stats on here, the first thing is, let's say there's over 200 million people on a do not call list. Whether that is actually being adhered to or not, I'm not sure. I don't know about you. I get 1 million phone calls on my phone. And but here's the thing about that. What happens? If your phone, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this in the last year or so, if your cell phone or your work line is blowing up with a bunch of robodials, what happens? You stop answering the phone because you're really annoyed. So from a cold call perspective, that starts getting a lot more difficult to try to get through because it's really annoying. Direct mail, we have a 2.9 response rate. Actually, kind of an interesting thing, we're starting to see direct mail come back a little bit, but it's still not performing in the ways that we were seeing in the digital space. Really interesting stat is that 80% of Super Bowl ads fail. This was a metric that came out in 2017. There's a lot of different reasons for that, but it really at the end of the day, the Super Bowl ads just aren't what they used to be. And I don't mean the creative. I'm talking about sort of more of the experience. So I'm sorry, Budweiser frogs, but it doesn't work as much anymore. If you think about it, the traditional Super Bowl experience, it was a whole event. Whether you were a football fan or not, everybody got around because we wanted to see those commercials. And you know what? We didn't see those commercials until the actual Super Bowl. Now we're seeing them weeks to months before, and it gets diluted. And you know what? We can see them on our phone. We can see them on the computer. For watching the Super Bowl, chances are you're on your phone looking at something else as well, and it's diluting it. 80% of Super Bowl ads are failing. On average, 18 dials to connect with a buyer. This goes back to that sort of the cold calling thing. Actually, I'm just going to take a little quick time out and move this. This is really annoying me. So I feel like I'm hunching over. I'm still have to hunch over. Oh, well. So yeah, 18 dials to connect with a buyer. And here is probably the biggest and probably the scariest challenge of all. You guys ready for this? Nearly 50% of B2B buyers are millennial. That is so scary.
That sounds scary.
At least that's what we hear, right? This is an interesting study that came out of Google Insights back in 2015. And that's almost, depending on when in 2015 was, that's almost 4 years from now, since we're at the end of 2018. Nearly 50% of B2B buyers are millennials. So I have a sneaky suspicion that that's going to increase. I don't know. I can do math. So at this point, it is probably now at 50, if not more. So there's a lot of interesting things going on with this. We're going to circle back on that stat here in a minute. So the net is marketing is not working like it was before. Marketing has changed. We must now attract our ideal buyers. Okay, so instead of saying we've got to go out there and we've got to, pound the pavement, you still got to do some of that stuff. But just think of, like, for example, trade shows. We hear this constantly. People are like, well, we're just not getting the kind of leads that we would get from trade shows. Or we would come back expecting to have a stack of POs this big coming back from a trade shows, and simply that's just not happening anymore. Or we had a conversation earlier, where the idea of going, the door-to-door salesman going to a business and walking in, it's almost like you're like ostracized. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, why is there somebody here?
You may be attacked.
Do you have a story about that?
No, well, I've been on the other side of it too as an engineer, and having
Have you attacked people?
an unannounced salesman coming to the door deserves a beating. Right. That's kind of how I felt.
Well, and there's a fancier word for that, right? Disruptive. It's very disruptive. Or you might get a beat down. I like that. I mean, it's funny, but it's true. There was a funny commercial. There was some funny video I saw on Facebook like a year ago or something with the doorbell ringing, at your house. Like when that happens now, like I remember back in the day when I was a kid, it was like, ooh, the doorbell, somebody's here. Let's get everybody out. And they said, my mother would come in and say, here's our fruit cake that we have just for people that's going to come in here already. Now the doorbell rings and you're like, what the heck? Who is that? Everybody hide. We laugh because it's true. So it's changed. So I'm going to share a quick little story, this aha moment that Caterpillar had back in 2015. So Caterpillar got a hold of this study that we referenced a couple slides ago about nearly 50% of millennials being B2B buyers. And they said, okay, that's interesting. Well, that's obviously going to change. And maybe the way that we're going to market and the way that we're communicating, it needs to be a little different. So they had a big aha moment, and that is they said, okay, we're changing all of our marketing. We're changing everything. It's got to be story-based. What are these millennials like? They want story. They want human connection. And, they're onto something because at the end of the day, when you look at like B2C versus B2B sales, so we're selling to consumers versus selling to other businesses, B2B typically gets a sense of, well, we're selling things and we're selling widgets, and these widgets are very expensive and they're big, and that's great. But there's a core element that we miss that B2C has, and that is that we are selling to another business, but we're selling to other people. And I think that's a core thing, is that how we are connecting, we need to have to realize that we are connecting to people. And millennials have an interesting, a stronger connection to that, and that is a much bigger appeal. So Kat, if you've looked at their stuff, go take a look at their website, take a look at some of the content they're producing, some of the videos and stuff they're doing. They've got a whole series on basically customer videos about not, hey, how Caterpillar product is doing all these amazing things for them. It's about what their customers are doing. And we're not going to necessarily talk about Caterpillar per se. We're just going to share their story, not our story, their story. And we're seeing that a lot. And that was actually one of the big reasons when I came across Lowe's and Cobalt Tools on Facebook. They had a very interesting series called the Artisan Series. And they were doing a very same thing. They were focusing on customer stories on how people were using their products for their hobbies or their job or what have you. I'm a pilot, and so I'm in these pilot groups in Facebook, and there was a story of a guy who was building a kit plane, so an RV-10 or RV-8, and he was building it with Cobalt tools, and that just drew me in. I was like, oh, wow, that's super cool. And there was nothing that was spoken about. There was no call to action saying, oh, you need to buy our tools, and they're the greatest things since sliced bread. It wasn't about that. It was about sharing the story of this customer on how they're using their tools, and it just drew you in. And it was incredibly moving, and it was very successful for them. So we have a whole episode on that where we talk about why they did that and the ROI and what they're getting out of it. So the aha moment of Caterpillar. Seth Godin, I'm sure if you guys have heard of him, he has a great quote, and he talks about how marketing is no longer about the stuff you make, but about the stories you tell. So this goes back to the whole thing that Caterpillar is talking about, this whole thing about this, millennial thing coming up that's so scary. It's about stories. We have to tell story. And traditionally, it has not been that. Traditionally, it's been, we've been around since 90 years, and you need to buy from us because we're the best. Well, that doesn't cut it anymore. Or you need to buy from us because feature, function, feature, function, feature, function. That doesn't cut it anymore. It's around the story. It's around solution selling. It's more about, let me hear from you, what are your needs, and let me help to solve your challenges very early on in the conversation. So we're flipping that around. So we have to ask ourselves a question. Where are your customers found now? Well, there's a thing called Google, the internet's 3.5 billion searches per day. That's kind of crazy. It's a big number, but when you think about it, most people are probably like, okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. How many times do you use Google on a daily basis? Facebook is interesting. There's almost 1.5 billion daily active users. Let me break that down for a second. That's daily. That means Facebook has more users, but that means that almost 1.5 billion people are on their platform every single day. Now, are they looking for your product on Facebook? Maybe, maybe not. But these are where people are spending their time. People are spending their time there. Shouldn't we be there? And those almost 5 billion people on Facebook are spending 20 to 50 minutes a day on there. And they're probably not spending it on TV or cable as we know it. 94% of business buyers do some form of online research. I think that's pretty straightforward. You think about it. You want to go buy something, whether it's business related or consumer related. What do? What's the first thing that you do? Well, naturally, you go pick up the Yellow Pages. Oh wait, I'm sorry. That was a couple years ago. That was probably 94. No, we go to Google and we start searching questions. How do I do this? How do I find that? Here's my challenge. And that is the opportunity. Nearly 50% of B2B buyers watch 30-plus minutes of video before purchase. Well, if we look at the stat before and we say, okay, well, they're doing some sort of research online. They're looking for answers to their challenge, to their problem. And you, who has a product or a service that can answer that, if people they're online, they're looking for stuff, they're spending 30-plus minutes of video. You know, what's interesting is that when a company or a person reaches out now to you, for the most part, they're about 80% down the road on that decision-making process, because they're coming. I know you know this. They're coming in. They've already educated themselves on your product or service, and that could be a really good thing or it could be a really bad thing. It just depends on what shows up when they are looking for that information. But that tells us they're self-educating themselves. They're taking that sales process and they want basically that information when they want it and how they want it. And that information may happen at 3 in the morning when you're in bed. But guess what? They're online because they've got such a big problem. They're like, gosh darn it, we got to solve this stupid thing. Let me just find out what is going on. That's the real deal. So a couple key takeaways is do not force information on your target audience. That's a big mind shift that we have to change. We can't force it. It's about having the right information at the right time when your prospect is ready. How many times have you gone to a trade show and you come back with a stack of leads about this big, and we know that the vast majority of them we're not gonna close a sale today, right? But there's some good people in there that, it could be 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years before they buy. And so there's a big tendency to say, well, I'm going to totally disregard those people that are not ready to buy because I need to hit my quota and I've got to do this now. Well, we can't force that information on them. There's a lot of value there. We need to continue to provide value, to continue to educate them in our process. And once they're ready to go, guess who's top of mind? Boom, us, whoever us is. XYZ company, Chart, Landis, Siemens. So be where your prospects are looking on the internet. That's really the big key takeaway. So you have to ask yourself, are you where your prospects are looking? So I'm going to run through quick the basic marketing funnel. Now, most of you, if not all, are probably very familiar with this. And we say, hey, you know what? We got this. Like, I totally get it. But we're going to run it down. And the way that we kind of think about it in the sense of being found where your customers are looking, and then how to kind of bring them down the funnel and kind of turn them into a customer, right? So if you look at it, it's really at the end of the day, it's just a numbers game, okay? So the way this works typically is you get website traffic. Visitors come to your website, and they are looking for information. Well, one of the things that if you're not doing, you should be doing is having some sort of lead content offer. So how many of you have gone to a webinar or attended a webinar? Okay, yeah, everyone's done it. Or an ebook, or a video series. These are all content offers. These are basically saying, we have 1,000 people on our website, but we don't know who they are. How can we find out who those people are? Well, we have a great content offer that is very valuable. It's something that helps to answer their problem. So if they're, I'm searching on how to build a fence. Well, here's a guide on fence building or the best, techniques. It's something that's very, very beginning, but it's something that says, oh, well, that's valuable to me. I will put my email address in there or whatever, and I want this guide because this is going to help me. So once we have, let's say we have 100 people that come in and do that, and we process them through emails and all these other different touch points and other content offers. That turns into 10 customers. Okay, so we're looking at we're trying to keep the math very, very simple and very, very easy here. So you get 1,000 people to your website. You turn 10% of them, so about 100, into leads through these content offers, and 10% of them turn into customers. And let's say that the average customer is a $100,000 customer. Now you put your numbers in there. Figure out what that is. Okay. All right, well, we're talking about, $1 million there. So what the really cool thing is with, digital marketing and stuff is right now we're in, what are we in? We're in budget season, we're in planning season. We're thinking about 2019 at this point. So you may have already gone through this, or you're in the middle of it, or you're just about to go through it with your company. And what's happening right now is saying, okay, well, here's our growth strategies. We need to grow sales by whatever, 10% or 5% or whatever that is. People are shaking their heads, yes, when we know this. So luckily with this, we can tweak the numbers and kind of look and say, well, hey, what do we need to do now from a digital perspective to be able to adjust this? Well, let's say we want to increase by 20% here. I think that's 20% is right. So if we just get 200 more people to our website, that means that we're going to get 20 more leads that's going to come in, and then that means we're going to be able to get 2 more customers out. That's $200,000 more that we're able to do that. And the great thing is there's like 3 levers that you essentially can move. Well, if we need to bring more people to our website and generate more traffic, well, how do we do that? Okay, well, there's several different ways. We're going to kind of kick over to Judson here in a minute to kind of explain some of that on some of the tactics and things they're doing, but it's a numbers game. If we can get 200 more people to our website, there's a good chance that's going to turn into 20 more leads, which will turn into 2 more customers. And if we know what the average deal size of a customer is, it's math. So how do we generate more traffic? Is it AdWords? Is it paid? Is it more webinars? What is it? I don't know. We can figure that out. And then looking at the leads, or maybe we say, hey, let's just tweak that number on how we can convert all those people that are coming to our website. How do we get them into leads? How do we get them to self-identify? Well, maybe we need better content offers, something that's a lot more valuable, something that when somebody is on the website says, oh my gosh, that is so valuable, I have to have access to this because this is just awesome. Something that's incredibly valuable to them. We can tweak that number. So anyways, so there's a couple different levers and stuff that you can use with it, but it's just sort of a very, very basic example just in terms of how we should really be thinking about it just in terms of a numbers game. I'm going to share an interesting story with you. So with IndustrialSage, this is a screenshot of our organic traffic. So traffic that we're building to bring to our website. We started this a year ago, or a little over a year ago. Because essentially we kind of wanted to eat our own dog food, so to speak. If we want to tell people you need to be doing this, we figured, well, we probably should be doing it, and so we can show people and not, be, smoke and mirrors. So the interesting thing was that we're using a tactic called search engine optimization, SEO. A show of hands, is that familiar to everybody? Okay, SEO, for the most part, right? So basically, for those who aren't familiar with it, it's, you search for something, you search up, what are the best puppies to buy? And if you have really good SEO, that your page comes up number 1 saying, we have the best puppy guide for 2019, what have you, right? So anyways, that's a tactic that we did. It's a long-term play, and it's all about content. It's about putting blog articles and video content and putting more and more things, filling them up so that Google has something to search and you're able to find that, right? We do weekly videos. And we take those videos, we turn them into we do turn them into podcasts. We turn them into blog articles, and we share it on social and all that good stuff. Well, it was really interesting. We thought, we were thinking, well, we do this once a week. That should be pretty good, right? A blog article a week, a video a week, we should be really good. Well, our SEO traffic said, not as much. It took us 6 months to get real actionable traction. And then, as you can see, it then it picks up and then it keeps growing on itself, and it continues that growth path. So the interesting takeaway on that is that now it just takes so much more content. We're big fans of blogs, so if you really want to grow aggressively, be thinking about a content strategy on creating very valuable blogs, but you got to be cranking these suckers out if you really want to grow aggressively. And if you can get that, and this goes back to that slide before, the more traffic that we can bring in, the more leads you can generate, which means the more customers in this. So it's not just hey, blogging thing is just stuck for the mommy bloggers who are talking about food and kids stuff. No, there's a real business application to this. So that's all I've got for here, to explaining the marketing funnel. I think this is a good part to kind of transition over to Judson just to talk about, the challenge of lead gen, some of the things that you guys have done over at Chart to address this, and then we're going to want to talk a little bit about the MQL and SQL process, we can explain, what that is. So at Chart, do you guys do digital marketing?
A little bit.
A little bit, okay, all right. So,
otherwise, they take my job away.
Okay, all right, good. So can you maybe just explain how you guys kind of jumped into it and said, hey, this is something we need to do, and then what that looked like and what it looks like now?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is I needed a job, and I talked him into doing it, and it worked. First question from everybody here, by show of hands. Folks that are sales folks? Cool. Marketing? Okay, now I know who
There's
kiss up to.
three marketing people here. Okay, right now. That's good.
So I take a little different approach to the whole funnel thing and everything than maybe some folks do, and it depends on your business. But Chart does a lot of industrial products. We have relatively low number of customers. We got some businesses net new, but then we got a lot of business that's just reselling to the same people over and over again, trying to get more market share, just trying to keep our names in front of them, trying to get it so that when the sales executive goes out to renegotiate a contract, they don't have a lot of ill will towards us, is a chunk of what our digital marketing is. So it's a little different. The other thing, too, that I think of, and I think this works for everybody, when you look at the lead gen process in that funnel, there's two sides of it to me. There's the side that's external facing towards the customer, which is I want them to know, like, and trust me. So that's part of what we're trying to do in that process. The other side of that process, and this comes more on the sales side, is our sales folks need to be efficient. They're professionals, and the better the lead we provide to them, the more money they and the company can make in the shortest amount of time. So at the same time as trying to get them to know, like, and trust me, we're trying to understand, are they really a good prospect or not? And if they're not, how we can politely invite them out of the process and put them somewhere else. So we look at the funnel that way. So every piece of content, every action we do is designed around that. I think I've learned on the marketing side is you become really valuable to the sales team if you don't give them crappy leads. It's a fairly simple formula. And at the same time, if you're giving them things they can use and the customer's well educated by the time it gets to them, they find marketing fairly useful at that point. And I honestly believe, and I know you guys do too, it's not sales and marketing, it's revenue generation. And we all work, no matter which side we're on, our job is to generate revenue for the company and do it in the most efficient and profitable way we can do that. So that's a very quick funnel piece of that. And one of the things I think about when I'm looking at that part of it is the top of the funnel, depending on your company, may or may not be what a lot of like business to consumer companies are looking at. You may know, actually I'll ask, in general, do most of you know who all of your possible customers are in the market? Couple? Okay. So some folks really know in general in their industry, there's this many customers and I know who to go for. So when I look at lead gen, I've got two prospects available to me. I can go out there and blanket the market and spit up on anybody I can on Facebook or Google AdWords or other places. One of the things I find in industrial products is we've got some products that get 317 searches a month. And I believe 315 of those are kids in college doing research papers. So big AdWord campaign, probably not doing it for me. But the great side is on the other side of that is because of that niche need, there's been these websites, magazines, other periodicals that have developed that these folks live at. And so we spend our time lead gen-wise going there. They've already spent a bunch of money and made some money sort of filtering out the wheat from the chaff for me. So I know. Quick example, we do packaging, and one of our businesses creates a product that goes on the end of a canning line or bottling line for breweries. So instead of me running Google AdWords all over the place, asking people if they want to buy a nitrogen doser, and what most people don't know what it is, including brewers, we spend our time at some of the brewers' websites, and we just run ads there. And we partner with them, and we do webinars with them. And what we end up doing is paying a little bit more for our ad money, but we know that we have our target market the second they walk in the door. And I find that whether you're in marketing or sales, the more you can do that, the less time you're wasting doing other stuff. And if you get to the point that you're saying to yourself, you know what? I got all these leads and they're not working for me. I don't have time to follow up with on that next lead. It's not an issue of time. It's an issue of having the wrong lead in front of you and having the wrong people to follow up on. Because I think if you only ever got all the yeses, you would come in the office, 2 hours later you would go home and pick up your paycheck. And that's marketing's job to do that for you. So I think of the funnel too in certain areas. So you got the lead gen at the top, and I think of that as getting to know the company. So one of the things I always do is, again, a lot of our solutions people don't know they need. So we start off the process of introducing them to the solution, introducing them to the pain that they have, and not even about us solving the problem. I might be weird in that I don't talk about how great we are up front, what I start with is what's the solution, and not about how good our solution is. And I have no problem telling people there's other people that make this thing, and here's the specifics of what this solution does for you, what the ROI is going to be for you on the back end of it. They're smart. They can Google it. They're going to know you have competitors, and they're going to look at your competitors. So me trying to hide that from them doesn't do any good. But I equate it to sort of like dating. So anybody here that's married, whether you're a man or a woman, you understand that, let's say you went on a blind date with your husband or wife on the first date, and they sat down, they asked you a couple questions about yourselves, you told them a little bit about you, they talked a little bit about themselves, and then they asked you, would you like to marry me? And for the most part, that doesn't work very well. As a matter of fact, guys, just so you know, if you do that, you become that weirdo guy story that they tell their husband that they marry later. So you have to go through that know, like, and trust thing. So I'm trying to get to the point here where we're just telling them a little bit about the industry, and then I want to get to the next part, which is liking us, and just telling them a little bit about us, about our company, not about why our product's so good, just the company. And then to Danny's point, when we use Caterpillar, then we start to bring in some of our customers and share what the product is and what the solution was for them and what they got out of it, so that they can later on trust me on that. And to me in the funnel, because I don't have any products that I sell that you're going to pull out your credit card online and type it in and buy the product from me. None of the products I sell are going to be sold until a salesperson sits down with them and evaluates their needs. The smallest product we have is $20,000. The biggest one is systems that are multi-million dollar projects. So the funnel here is really just getting them in the door, building that relationship before they get handed off on that SQL piece over to sales. I know some folks do really sell products that they can sell online, and then there's the next part of the process, which is converting them over. But for the most part, we're just spending our time doing that. And I still believe in industrial, especially if you're going to sell them another product later, they need a salesperson and they need a relationship. So all we're doing is building that relationship up to that point before they get handed off. Danny mentioned the lead gen, so very quickly, and I'm not going to go through tools and stuff that we use, but we always use a CRM and a marketing tool. So for me, it's Salesforce and Pardot, but we also use very targeted ads. As I mentioned, it's sort of hard to get to people. So we use things that I know, and this sounds crazy, but every click that we get is somebody that I wanted to get the click from. So if I put a banner ad up and you click on it, you only saw that banner ad because you have the job title and the company that you work for is the target company I'm looking for. So we try to focus in on that area, and it costs us a ton more money per click than it would be if you're running a straight out ad. I mean, people think it's crazy. I pay $9, $12, sometimes 78 cents just to get a click on something. An impression. The clicks are even more expensive. Sorry, just to get an impression on something. But I know that the impression I got is somebody that I want to get to. And then when I get a click, and yes, we do pay $5 to $15 a click. But those folks, I know I really want. Not only do I want them, they might actually really want me at that point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of key things you mentioned there, but one of the things that jumped out is I think there is definitely this shift in this relationship between sales and marketing, that where I think maybe traditionally there is this mentality of, well, marketing does sales slicks, brochures, spec sheets, sales sheets. They're gonna organize everything for the trade shows. That's marketing. That's what marketing does. Oh, I need this presentation updated. I need this, whatever. And the reality of it is the way that it's shifted. What you're talking about here, you mentioned, I think, demand. Demand gen is essentially the role of the marketer coming in and really helping to provide very qualified leads. And we have the technology and the ability to be able to do that now. And that is where you mentioned, you become a sales team's best friends. If you're like, hey, listen, I just got 20 qualified leads. These guys they already know who we are. They know our products. They're ready to go. And let's go ahead and just run them to the finish line. Mm-hmm. We've had, I remember talking to a robotics company out in the UK. But yeah, and they were saying, it's amazing when people come online and said our sales process typically it could be 6 months or it could be a year. And when people are coming online when they're doing this, we're getting this thing down to 90 days. And their average product or product is about $30,000, and they're buying $3 3 to 5 on any given purchase.
Yeah. I should throw one more thing in there, too. When you talk about building that process, so marketers have all these ideas, and they read stuff online, and we watch podcasts and blogs and stuff like that.
Yeah, don't watch any podcasts.
Yeah. I help some other folks out. I do implementations for Pardot for some other companies. And when we're building an engagement program, they always ask, what's the industry standard for how we should build our program? How many emails do I send? What are they about? What do I do here? All that kind of stuff. And my recommendation is go to your sales team. There's somebody that's successful that's been there for a long time that's already doing this. They might be doing it in an Excel spreadsheet. They might be doing it on a piece of paper. But what I can guarantee you, there's smart folks on your sales team that know that, let's say somebody threw 100 leads at them. In 20 minutes, they would figure out who the people are they want to call first and who the people are that they don't want to call at all. So spend time with them, document that process, and just use that in your process. Because it works. I mean, we've got a 55-year-old company. If we couldn't sell stuff, we wouldn't be $1.25 billion. So people were selling stuff long before I started doing digital marketing there, and they were selling stuff before we started going to trade shows. So I just did that, and in certain cases, I've gotten lucky where they're like, oh, go talk to this guy, and he literally has a spreadsheet with all the information and the decision process, and they, if they answer that the job title is this, and they have a budget of this year, and but the other part is getting budgeted next year, then I know to rank them here, and so on and so forth. So just steal that.
That's
And
very
copy it
lucky.
over.
That's very lucky that he had that.
Yeah.
That's not always the case.
That is true. And some sales folks do it, they just don't know they're doing it. So you start walking them through. Actually, everybody that can actually sell something does it. They just might not know that
Yeah.
they're doing it.
Yeah, for us, it's definitely a conversation. Sometimes they don't document everything, but when you sit down and talk to them about their process, then you get everything like flowing from them because, they're used to talking to people. I'm sure all the salesmen here know that. But
Salespeople don't talk to people, right?
Yeah.
No. So, I think that's, again, another really interesting thing was talking about really just bringing together that sales and marketing. Instead of having marketing is on this side of the building and sales, well, maybe you talked about in your case on the other side of the world, they're the furthest thing apart. They really need to work together. And I think, Judson, one of the episodes that we had, you had a really good suggestion just in terms of, we were talking about blogs and content and things like what if a company's saying, hey, we are, we're thinking about we need to do this, but trying to figure out like what are we going to blog about? Like what content should we put out there? You had a really good recommendation. I'm gonna put you on the spot here. I think you know what it
Trying to
is.
remember what it is.
Oh, darn it. Okay, I know what it
Talking
is.
about using ancillary content in the business, but not.
Well, what you basically talked about going, you talked about essentially going and talking to your sales team and say, what are the top?
Oh,
Yeah,
So, and you get to do this both ways, sales team, support team, whichever, just going back and asking them, what are the top questions you get? So I think of that too when we're doing the funnel is, what questions does the salesperson end up getting over and over again that we can remove from the process so that when they finally get face-to-face, you're not answering that question that 800 times over and over. So yeah, we do that. We sort of come up with an FAQ on the sales side, and then we come up with an FAQ on the support side. What tech support, all those folks, what are the questions they get over and over again? And so that's our lead content on the way into that. It's serving two purposes. It's answering questions that people are going to have, and it also saves the sales team.
Yeah, and it makes you look like the thought leader in the space. If you can already answer their question when they're searching for things or looking for your content, if you can establish yourself as the leader there, that's always a good place to be.
Because you always know more than they do if they've never bought the product.
Of course.
Exactly. Actually, maybe I'm going to ask you to share another story. Maybe, hopefully you remember this, but you talked about how you were selling.
I have a 10-week-old baby at home, so my cognitive skills
Oh,
are like this.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, not about the baby, but about the sleep. So no, because I got a 6-month-old
true.
at home myself, so I understand about the no sleep thing. I had an interesting story how you went and you got you guys had a new client with a brewery. And you said they were like 30-something years old, and you went and you said, hey, I just want to kind of find out why you guys went with us. And do you remember that story?
I do.
Okay,
yeah.
you do remember that.
We-
It triggered
well,
something.
Yeah.
All right.
When people tell you suck, they remember. Yeah, no, it was a brewery. Young guys, they're great guys, all special forces, and they built a brewery up in Manassas. And I was up there visiting with them, and anytime I get to talk to a customer and find out why they bought something from us, I really want to know the answer to that so we can duplicate it somehow. And I asked them, why'd you guys buy from us? And they said, well, we went to your website, and it sort of sucks. We couldn't really figure out where to find stuff. And it's true, we sell across so many laterals and different businesses that if you just go to our regular website without a landing page, you're gonna have a hard time finding what you want. And then they said too that, you guys don't do any video or anything like that, and that's the kind of stuff we want. We wanted to go to the site, find information, see some stuff on there. And
How did you get the sale?
that's a great question. So yeah, that's
Is it luck? Are there no competitors in this?
So there are competitors, but very few.
I want to see how this plays out.
In this case, there's one other competitor, two really, but they're in Europe. They don't come over much. And so I asked them the
I work
question.
for a
I'm
European
like,
company.
yeah, there you go. So I'm like, so why did you buy it from us? And they said, well, because we finally got a hold of you, or we called you up. One, you answered the phone. So yeah. And they said, two, we talked to you guys. You came out, and we liked you. And then we talked to the other guys. We didn't like them.
Simple.
Malika, is that how millennials do it?
It's the like part. And it sort of was the case. And part of it was answering the phone because the other company didn't answer the phone. But no,
many
I'm not sure this is a
robocalls.
great story, Danny. It's intriguing.
I think it's very intriguing. Well, part of it too, talking about just the disorganization, obviously, and when the initial part of the conversation, you said something on there too about the whole phone thing. Like, what the heck? Like, seriously, if you've got leads coming in, you should not wait more. 24 hours is too late.
Yeah.
Honestly, it needs to be as fast as you can get back to people, because that's how we consume media. That's how do you want your answer? When you go get your fast food, or you're going and you want to watch something on Netflix or whatever, when do you want it? Do you want to go jump in the car and go drive down to Blockbuster that doesn't exist anymore to go rent that movie and then come back and then play it? No, you press a button and you expect it to play right there. So we have trained ourselves on how we want to buy, how we want to consume, and that's no different B2C or B2B. And so it's the same thing. So if you really want to win, this is for the salespeople out there and the marketing people out there. You get leads, they're on there. You cannot wait days or weeks to contact them, because that is just, there's a great stat actually in the real estate industry, and they talk about how if somebody who comes in and they're looking for a realtor, and the first real estate agent to actually get back to that person has an 80% likelihood or chance that that person will choose them as their realtor. Why? Because they are answering their questions. They are exercising their sense of, we are the leaders and the experts in this industry, and we got back to you. Mm-hmm. This shows eagerness. If people are not getting back, that's piss poor, especially in today's economy. Sorry for the whatever.
Well, and I will say too on the phone call side. So I'll set a low hurdle for folks. If they aren't willing to pick up the phone and call us, or click a button that says, I want your salesperson to call me, they're not interested enough for me to consider them a qualified lead.
You're kind of like the soup Nazi in your industry.
If you're not willing to make a phone call to spend, and you're doing a $2 million project, the odds of me selling to you is probably pretty slim.
Well, see, I'm intrigued because you make a great point, which is, why do you buy from me? I think that we all have a hard time being objective about our own companies, right? Sure. We know what we know. We've been in the company for a short period of time or a long period of time, but this is how we've always done things. And it's hard to really know what it is that differentiates you. Mm-hmm. And what you're saying in this case is you had better, more likable salespeople. And that's a factor. I think statistically it's not the main factor. You had to have the product, your brand equity, there's other things that happen. But I'd like to also insert that it's as important for us to know why we lost the job, if you can ever get that feedback. Yeah. I think doing a post-mortem of a project, you have a pipeline of projects, probably sales management looks at those every week, every month. Why did we lose XYZ company? And I think it's key for marketing to know that wasn't our customer. That's why we lost it. Yeah. Or we lost it on price. And therefore, maybe they're not our customer or whatever. But that feedback helps refine down to who is the customer and who do we need to market to and who do we not need to market to. Yep. There is something to be said about scarcity, though. Which is kind of what you're saying here. You're kind of drawing back a little bit. You got to want it. You got to want it bad to come find us. But that also got the customer, got some skin in the game, right? Yeah. They had to invest, and you didn't drop the ball between them. But there's probably a happy medium there.
Yeah, it's sort of like the content approach. Do you gauge your content or don't you? My approach is, if you're not going to give me your email address to get my content, you're probably not a customer. If we can't get over that hurdle of here's an email address, the odds of you spending $2 million with me but not giving me your email address, probably is fairly slim. So that I try to do it that way. Some of it is just guarding the sales team a little bit.
I think that's great, and I think all of us should consider from a website point of view, it may not be just because someone visited the site that they have to say, here's my email address just to read your website. That's a bit obnoxious, but I think it is something to be said, and this is widely done, is, oh, you want the white paper on X and so, please give us your email, and you should, collect those emails. That's your family of prospects, and that email list is essential. That's something that your competitor would want more than anything else.
Yeah, and we tend to, we'll give away, this is just the general approach, give away white papers and ebooks, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
We ask for your email address for a webinar, but then there's a reason for that. We want to remind you 65 obnoxious times that the webinar's coming up in 10 days, 2 days, 5 minutes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we always gate based on the value of the offer, right? So
Sure.
if it's a big white paper or a lot of stats in there, we might gate that, asking for email or more information. But if it's something very high level that we would give to anybody, we won't gate that.
So when you're talking about like the position in the funnel where that gated content is it always at the top or is it somewhere in the middle?
I would say it's probably in the middle, right? We want you to probably be a returning person, that you got something for free that was of value, and then you come back looking for more, maybe a case study or something deeper, and then we'll ask you for your information there, because then by that time you're probably a little more invested, you're researching a lot more. So like you said, they're probably more likely to be a customer.
Yeah, it's sort of like that dating thing.
Yeah.
You don't ask them on the first date, you wait a little bit longer for that.
Exactly.
Yeah, because otherwise you scare them away.
Exactly.
So I think maybe we can transition a little bit more into the, from the MQL to SQL process. And, that was something too interesting to you, Craig. You talked about like understanding why we lost the sale, because, and that kind of goes back to that qualifying piece, like what makes them marketing qualified versus sales qualified. Like, okay, do they have the budget? Do they have the need? Do they have the timing? Are we talking to the right person? Are they, and realize, oh, well, wait a minute, shoot, these guys, they didn't have the right budget or they didn't have the right timing. And so maybe we push things, on a digital side that we shouldn't have done quite yet. Then we pushed them into sales, and then we're wasting a lot of time because, you're giving leads. So having that closed loop of feedback to help really make that process better, and it's an iterative process that you continue to continuously to improve on it, is really important. So, let's talk about in this scenario. We've got leads. We got really good leads. They're qualified. And we're kicking them over.
Marketing or sales qualified?
Sales.
Marketing qualified means they gave me their email address.
Right, I'm talking about sales. So, marketing is, hey, if somebody gives us your email address, you're basically marketing qualified, and then that kind of gets tweaked as they go down the funnel. And once you realize, hey, they've looked at all of these different types of content, they've watched all of these videos, they've attended 5 of our webinars, like we're seeing all of these things. It's like, okay, all right, it's a thing, lead score. Like, okay, they are good. They have done all these things. They've checked all of these boxes. We think. Now we can let's go ahead and kick them over to a salesperson so they can help to facilitate that relationship, reach out and walk them through the closing of the sale. So let's transition a little bit over. I want to talk about the keeping. All right, and so that concludes part 1 of the Georgia Manufacturing Summit panel discussion on sales and marketing that we led on October 10th. We will release the second part next week. And stay tuned. It's going to be awesome. So, as always, if you have any questions and you'd love us to answer them, you can reach out to us at industrialsage.com/questions. We'd love to answer them. If you're listening on iTunes, hey, we'd love a review. And if you're looking on social media, give us some love. We'd love it. Share some stuff, comment. That would be awesome. So, that's it. That's all we got for today. Thanks so much. And until next week.